It's Matty Fresh on the track up at State. And I'm bringing to you live my boys Alec and Nate, Tequila Ty, Jay, Nelly, and Dylan in the building. So kick it back, pour the drink. We chillin' because I'm boozing and betting and ballin' like I'm 2-6. And the blue kicks, watch me move quick. Yeah, this the blueprint. So who's getting involved? Welcome into the show. This is Booze, Bets, and Ball, baby.
I tried to think of a good way to describe what happened on Saturday. There's not really a good one. I kind of just thought of like, holy shit, because that's what I said multiple times throughout that game. So Penn State survives against Minnesota 26-25. Yeah, that was close. I had a terrible feeling that game was going to be weird like that. A lot of weird stuff happened. I was talking to someone last night about this. Do you remember Penn State ever getting an extra point blocked and returned for 2? Because I don't.
No.
Yeah.
That was the dumbest thing that ever happened.
Yeah. Of course, that would happen. The blocked punt where I don't know what Riley Thompson was waiting for necessarily. That in the own end zone, like that one, super weird too. That's also the first time I think. No, so Penn State faked a punt, I'm pretty sure, against Michigan in 2021.
Yeah.
But in terms of a success, no, that one succeeded, I think. It was when they tried to go for 2 on the extra point later that drive that didn't work.
Didn't they fake the field goal, didn't they?
Yeah, it was a field goal, not an extra point. Yeah. So first Simpson stop. Yeah. So a lot of interesting stuff in this game. Penn State hit a deep shot touchdown too, which never happens. So
they almost had another one too.
Yeah.
Amari Evans got wide open a couple times. The second one, Drew Aller kind of overthrew him. First off, that was like a cold open. There was no that was not really an intro. But I did want to say, as part of the intro, we need Matty Fresh to update our song and take out at least 2 names because many people don't show up to this. And I know I've been lacking a little bit too, but I have a lot going on in life. The other 2 do not. So anyway, so that's that. That game, I don't know. I had a lot more confidence going into it that I probably should have. And you were skeptical, at least. I watched the obligatory podcast before the game with Chris Bucciani and Brandon Noble, and they were very rightly skeptical. It was like, Christ, there were legit times when I thought we were going to lose. It wasn't one of these where it was close, but you knew Penn State was going to win. Like, there was a lot of times I thought we were not going to pull that off, and the blocked extra point to put us down 3 instead of tied going into halftime could have been just one of those ominous things that in years past really is a sign of things to come. And it kind of could have been too at the end of the game, because instead of being up 27-23, that had us up 26-25. And like if one of those 4th downs didn't work, Minnesota could have scored, and they just on a field goal and won the game. So. Yeah,
the other thing is Minnesota has to go for on that 4th and goal they have with like 6 minutes left. If that play doesn't happen. So maybe, I don't know, maybe that works in Penn State's favor after all, because maybe they go for that and score the touchdown and tie the game. So I mean, looking back on it, it kind of might have helped them. Who knows? But just because they're able to close the game out on offense and run the clock out. But otherwise, I'd be saying something different. But because they were able to do that, you do get to kind of use that hindsight. But it was a weird game because I don't think any of the 3 units played great, but then at the end they all kind of did something that won the game. Like the defense keeps Minnesota out of the end zone on the drive I was just talking about, and then the offense is able to run out the 6 minutes or 5:50, whatever was left, and the special teams, which had been really bad, gets the fake punt, which continues to drive and ends the game. So they all played really bad for 54 minutes, I'd say. And then the last 6, though, they all did what they needed to do to win, which was big. But yeah, I mean, special teams, 10-point swing, I guess, because you get a 3-point swing on the block, extra point. The semi-blocked punt, which gave Minnesota first down at the Penn State 20. They scored on the first play on that trick play. So that's like 10-point swing right there. So the defense didn't play horrible. The first couple drives were bad. Like that first drive, they got gashed pretty bad. But I mean, 10 points weren't necessarily, or I guess 9, like technically 9, weren't all their fault. So like there's that. Offense, he put up 26 on a really good defense on the road, but you went 1 for 11 on third down. And Drew Aller completed 75% of his passes, but the other 25% were really bad misses, I feel like. Like you mentioned, he missed Omari Evans on another deep touchdown. There was the drive after the Dom DeLuca pick where they got a field goal. He takes a sack on second down where Tyler Warren was wide open for a touchdown. And then on third down, he has a chance to complete a ball to Wallace right at the sticks, and he airmails it. So, like, you know, he was pretty accurate. 75% is really good on the road in a Big Ten game, but the misses were costly. And that was the thing. I don't know. Katron Allen, what was it, 7 rushes for 10 yards or, like, not great. Nick Singleton was a little better when they went outside the tackles. Everything inside was bad. Like there was nothing there. It was very clear that Minnesota knew about the Bo Prabila packages and the Tyler Warren packages. And with them having a bye week, I think they spent the majority of that time focusing on those two things because they were both very ineffective. The Tyler Warren stutter when he takes the direct snaps, and I know he's like trying to fake that he might either toss it to Singleton or like throw to someone, but everyone knows he's running, and it's costing them more than it's helping because he either needs to run with a full head of steam or it needs to be under center and just let him push. The whole like stutter step thing is not working.
Hold on a second, because now I got to collect. There was a lot of thoughts in there. So number one, I guess I was looking up red zone scoring. That's another thing where the offense just didn't have it, right? Mm-hmm. They were 5 trips in the red zone, 2 touchdowns, 3 field goals. You got those turnovers that you get inside opponent territory. Man, like what a difference the game is. First of all, if the Minnesota quarterback holds on to the ball and doesn't just drop it. But then like if you convert those into touchdowns, this was one of the worst red zone games that they've had. And they're 3rd in the conference in red zone score, like touchdowns in the red zone. Behind Indiana and Ohio State, but just that sucked. And I didn't want to look up the play-by-play here because, like you said, that package. All right, first drive, 3rd and 1, Tyler Warren run for no gain. Where, yeah, that was a bummer. Then let's see, this happened again. I feel like 3rd and 2. Okay, the second one was Nick Singleton run for no gain. Then when they went out on downs, what was that one? I guess I don't remember. Oh, Aller got sacked. But there was another one where like they were going left to right on the TV, and Warren could have pitched it, I feel like, to either Singleton or Katron, and like the defense was crashing down because just like you said, they fake it, but they know that he's going to run it. And like that was one where I felt like he could have actually pitched it and got. Yeah,
I know which one you're talking about. Singleton definitely, he had to beat one guy on the outside, but if he did, I think he would have scored.
Yeah, and like I don't know, I'm sure they're setting it up to mix it up eventually, but like you know, when it's a whatever, you're down or a 3-point game, like that's a cool time to use that too. So I would like to see that, man, either be used more, like with a little more mix it up, or even like what they did in the last drive when it's 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, man, just do the quarterback sneak thing. Like it's virtually unstoppable. Your quarterback is 240 pounds. If you want Tyler Warren to be your quarterback there, okay, he's 260, let him do it, whatever. But like you can get a yard of virtually anybody, you know, and you dick around a little bit, you don't get that. It kind of sucks. So that's my one gripe. The other gripe was the punt game sucks anyway, but the Tyler Warren pooch punt, that play, didn't love that play very much.
No.
I am happy that we did not get a timeout called, but also like, ugh, that was just gross.
Yeah, that one, I missed that one. This game I watched like in 3 different places. So I was at work, and then I was driving home listening on the radio, and then I watched the end at home. So I was kind of all over the place, so I missed some parts. Thankfully, I missed that because it probably would have went crazy. That I don't know what was going on there. Trying too hard with some of these things. So it's kind of funny with the offense because in the first half, they try to get the receivers involved, and they did to an extent. Mari Evans has the touchdown. Wallace had some catches. And then the second half, when they know they're in some trouble, it was all Tyler Warren and all Nick Singleton. So it shows you who they trust in the passing game when it's crunch time and it's not a single receiver. And I think by now we should be used to that. But it's still a little concerning that. And, I guess the clutch receiver, if you want to call him that, Fleming from the USC game, didn't really play in this game. He was banged up, so maybe that's why. But these other guys, I mean, there's nothing there when push comes to shove, it feels like. And, I mean, it's too late in the season even, like, be like, oh, is this a problem? Like, it is a problem. So I don't know what more you could say on it. Like, they're not going to fix anything. I think the only thing you hold out hope for is that we've seen this in the past where there's young guys who don't contribute a ton during the regular season, but that time between the end of the regular season and then the bowl game, which kind of acts as the second training camp, some of these guys come on. I don't know if like Tasir Denmark is in that category, someone like that where they get these 3 weeks to prepare again if something clicks for these guys. And obviously we talked about how the playoff doesn't work against a red shirt. If some of these guys can become a little more involved in the playoff just because they have more time to practice.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to see. It's on one hand, nobody dropped a ball really this game, right? And they have still been plagued with drops, especially Amari Evans has had some drops this year and on very catchable balls. I don't feel like there was any of that this week. The way that the game flow was going, or like my I don't know, whatever you call your like irrational fear about things going bad. When the ball was floating down to him 3 yards from the end zone, I thought he was going to drop it, but he did not. Thank you, and so that was cool. But then, like it's all Tyler Warren. There was one drive where it was three straight to him. That's what you want, right? And if he can get open, that's awesome, and just do that. But like, yes, Julian Fleming was out. Would he have been a game breaker? I don't know. He has come up clutch, especially in the USC game. Would he have made a difference now? Maybe. But there weren't a lot of targets to go around too. I have to see the total wide receiver targets, but the total wide receiver catches were 2, 4, and 1. So there weren't a lot of balls to go out of 21 total passes or 21 catches. So not a lot of receiver production, and I don't know how much Julian Fleming would have added to that. The one frustrating / kind of interesting twist to all of this is that Keandre Lambert-Smith, like kind of having a season at Auburn, caught the winning 2-point conversion for them to beat A&M. So like, my oh my, we could have used him. So
yeah, I don't know there. That one's just like, I think he's getting more looks, but I mean, like Auburn's not good, so it's like whatever.
Yeah,
but
it's just,
I know I don't know. That one's interesting. I don't know how different it would have looked with him. The other guys that left are all horrible, so that doesn't matter.
Somebody posted all the stats, like Cephas, nothing. Malik
McLean, nothing.
Like I think he has literally zero catches.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a good point on the young guys, right? Like if they can, if they have advanced far enough that they can become meaningful contributors in the playoffs, that would be incredible. And like, what a surprise that would be, because you said Minnesota had an extra week to prepare. And we didn't fool them with the Bo Prabula or Tyler Warren package as well. Look, you're going to go up against one of the 8th through 11th best team or something in the country, and they're going to have 3 weeks to prepare. So you bet your ass they're going to be ready for this too, right? So you better have some wrinkles on offense that involves, 3 of your skill position guys. So
yeah, I mean, we could talk about that when it gets to that point, but Bo Prabula has to throw in that package, and Tyler Warren has to pitch it to someone else in that package too in the playoff if you're trying to add something to that, because if Minnesota on a week, who's an average team, and I wouldn't say like the best coach team, like PJ Fleck is very much a hype man. I don't know how much of an X's and O's type guy he is, but like they figured it out. You play Kirby Smart or Marcus Freeman or one of these guys or Signotti in the playoff on 3 weeks, it's going to be a little different. So I just think that they do have to eventually in the playoff add wrinkles to these wrinkles, because the wrinkles themselves have seemingly been figured out by someone who had, middle of the pack coach that had a week to prepare. You get an elite coach with 3 weeks, that's seriously an issue. So
would you suggest that the wrinkles have been ironed out?
Yeah, you gotta roll the shirt back up and get more wrinkles in it. I think the point on PJ Fleck, I will say though, like if you watch Minnesota defense tackle
versus the Penn State defense tackling, they wrap dudes up, and there's not a lot of I don't know. This is an observation.
They're a Big Ten West defense.
Data, but we had very few broken tackles against them, where we have guys throwing shoulders at their running back and breaking for an extra 6 or 7 yards. So.
Yeah, and I don't know if part of this is, and I don't want to make excuses, is part of this. Penn State's dealt with a lot of injuries this year. We know Winston's out now. Donko, the right tackle's out, and Ford, the backup defensive tackle, is going to be out. So they're not going to have any of those 3 guys for the playoffs. Are a lot of these guys trying to protect themselves, whereas Minnesota, it was senior day. You really don't have much to play for, so these guys are being physical. They're giving everything they have to get this marquee upset for their program. And are the Penn State guys just kind of going through the motions, protecting themselves for the playoff? I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but that's kind of what it looked like to me from the 2 defenses. Like one team, this was their playoff. This was all they had really left to play for, and the other side, it was going through the motions, trying to protect myself because I have bigger games ahead.
Maybe, and it fixed itself in the second half, right? They ran for 10 yards in the second half or something. But man, in the first half, it just, it was kind of ugly, and especially on the one drive where they scored their touchdown. That was.
Yeah, I mean that was a lot like the USC game on defense. Now the offense went off in the second half of the USC game. That was not the case. This game, it was 10-6 in the second half. Yeah. But once again, the defense kind of corrected itself.
Yep.
Bowling Green, same thing. So, the 3 games that have been close, they've done enough. And I mean, even the Ohio State game, I think they only gave up 7 in the second half of the Ohio State game. What was that 13-10 at half?
I don't remember.
I think it was, but the defense in the second half has been better.
They have.
I just think you gotta stop getting to the point where you're in these holes. I don't know if at this point in the season that's going to change. Obviously, like I said with the receivers, it's not going to really change. I don't know if the first half defensive issues are going to change. So
Bowling Green was definitely the worst, right?
Yeah.
Southern Cal was rough, and then this one probably wasn't as bad because Minnesota only had 281 yards total. Whereas Southern Cal broke 400. That's the only team against Penn State to break 400 this year, and Bowling Green had 375. So I think this was a smaller version of that. And again, it should have been tied at halftime, right? We should not have been down like they were against USC. But again, you don't want to face Miami in the second round or the first round and go down by 17 or something like that and give up because you will not you're going to score against Miami, but you're not going to come back from a 17-point deficit because you're not going to stop them that much. So they will have to get this fixed. to be successful in the playoffs. And I know we're not talking about Maryland, and you said we'll deal with the playoffs when we get there, but like Maryland sucks. And I would bet my salary that we're not losing to Maryland.
Yeah, we'll talk about Maryland for like 5 minutes, but I did want to finish the Minnesota game with, I guess, giving James Franklin credit because he doesn't tend to get a lot of it, but that last drive with the fake punt and then going for it on the 2 4th downs, he coached like his pretty much. I don't want to say his job was on the line, but they lose that game. Now he didn't know that. I know if he knew that Ole Miss lost to Florida. I don't know if he, and obviously Texas A&M losing and Alabama losing didn't happen yet. So I think with those things happening, even if they lost that game, there's a chance they still would have snuck in as like the 11 seed. But he was coaching like pretty much his job was on the line because at the time you think they lose that game, there's a pretty good chance they don't make the playoffs. And if he misses the 12-team playoff with this team, with Drew Aller and all this stuff, like, there's going to be a lot of people calling for his job. And I think he coached on that last drive, like, I could lose my job or if we lose this game. And I give him credit for that because the fake punt was a great call. I know that's not all on him. He said, some of the guys on special teams, it's their call. Dom Ruley, one of the, what do they call those guys? Like the block protectors or whatever the hell they are. The guys that stand between the punter and the line. It's kind of his call to see what the look is. And then the second 4th down that they went for, the one where Aller QB sneaked it, that was one I was nervous about because there was still enough time left in the game, and that one was closer where
for the 2-minute warning.
Yeah, Minnesota would only needed like 45 yards to score a touchdown or to kick a field goal to win. The third one I was totally fine with, the one where Aller threw, because they don't get that. You're looking at, I think, 17 seconds and Minnesota on their own, like 19 with no timeouts to get a field goal. So like that one I felt okay about. But
the only thing that could have gone wrong there would have been a pick six. But you're destined for a life of suck if they give up a pick six there. But
because Aller does kind of throw across his body across the field on that one. So,
but like, okay, so the observation that he was coaching, like his job depended on it. Let's walk through a little bit. Is it that, or is this just what he should be doing? Right? This is like,
it's what he should be doing, but it's just not something he's done for the last 10 years.
Yeah, I get that. What he said afterward, like, obviously if that were the case, he would never admit it. But he said, we wanted to end this game on our terms, and they were going to be a lot more forceful. Now, in the back of his mind, can I imagine him being like, "Oh shit, I have to win this game, or I'm going to get fired"? I don't know.
I'm not saying that he would get fired, but I think he knows that
they needed to win.
Criticism would be louder,
And I just I was so happy to see all that stuff, the way that went down, right? And you can be critical about the way things were in the first half there, and like frankly, a lot leading up to that last drive. But when it mattered most, man, they did the things that they needed to do. And even you give him a lot of credit too. Like, people talk about him being the CEO and whatever, and like the CEO is a leader. And when on the Tyler Warren pooch punt thing, and then I don't know if Drew was trying to call timeout or not, or just, there was a distraction. I don't know what the hell was going on there. But then he walked over to the sidelines, and Franklin yelled at him, and he yelled back at Franklin, and he slammed his helmet and all this stuff. And then like they showed several minutes later where they went and had a nice conversation. And I'm sure there was a lot of pumping up there that Franklin did to him, and that's precisely what you want that's the type of leadership you want, right? And that was
I think
his finest last week. So,
and I think it helps that Franklin's last 2 quarterbacks were pretty emotional guys, so I think he's used to it. I think those two are a little different than Aller. I don't think those two kind of like, I don't want to say this, but Aller kind of whines at times, it feels like, where those two, it was a different kind of emotion. It was more like they don't know when to stop at times. They're a little crazy. But I just think that him dealing with those two, McSorley and Clifford, before has helped him prepared at how he wants to go about calming down Aller and, what to say to him. And so I definitely think that's helped. Like he's, over a decade into this now. Yep. So he's learning too.
Yeah. I would love to know what all the talk was after that play, though. Like you said, you missed it, but I don't know if you went back and watched the replay.
I saw that talk. I was able to see that.
No, but even
came in right after.
Like, why Drew was mad. Like, did they want a timeout? Did they want because I felt like it was a stupid idea to try to get a timeout there. I mean, just let whatever is going to happen. Like you're going to punt it. I don't know. You get a 20-yard punt or whatever. Okay, if that's the choice you're going to make, just let that happen. Why do you need a timeout? So I would love to know what the whole conversation was in that. But yeah, that's probably true too. Like, and McSorley and Clifford, by the time they left, they were very mature, older guys, right? So they could be emotional, but also be able to express those emotions and their feelings and talk through it with him. And Drew's still a little bit younger, like you.
Yeah, I mean. To your point, neither of them became the starter until year 3, and Aller's in year 3.
Yeah, right.
So it's totally different where, those two guys sat for 2 years, and when the time they left, McSorley was a 5th year and Clifford was a 6th year. Now he's dealing with a true junior in this case. Yeah. So like this is, the youngest quarterback he's pretty much dealt with because second year. Sans second year Hackenberg, I guess, was the youngest he's dealt with. But, since then, it's kind of what he's been dealing with. So, like, he's always kind of had veteran guys. So it is a little new for him. But I think it's also he's dealing with those guys has taught him how to deal with Aller, which is good. Really quick on Maryland, I guess. So they've lost 4 straight. Their November collapse happened again like usual. So they're 4-7. They've only scored over 30 points twice this year, and it was against UConn and Villanova. So some basketball schools. I mean, 24 against Michigan State, 27 against Virginia, 28 against Indiana, but I think like Indiana got up big there and then kind of laid off. They only scored 10 points against Northwestern. They lost 37-10 in Northwestern. Now, they did score 29 on USC, but we've seen USC's defense isn't great. This Minnesota team beat them 48-23. They lost to Oregon 39-18. They lost to Rutgers 31-17, and they lost to Iowa at home 29-13.
Yeah.
I don't see how this game is close. It's totally different than this Minnesota game where you're home. Minnesota was still playing for some things. Like they were a hot team. They won 4 out of 5 coming in, I think, and we're coming off a bye. I think this Maryland team's just cooked. At 24.5, I mean, we know Franklin usually tries to cover against Maryland. I don't know if with the injuries piling up, he has to call it off a little earlier than he'd like to, but I don't think this game is much of a sweat.
Well, I think, maybe you call off the starters, but you still try to be super aggressive. Like, how the hell they beat USC? I know that game was at home. I think
USC melted down.
Yeah.
They missed like a field goal late or something. Like, yeah.
Thanks, USC. Could have been a quality win. And you're just another one. Lost 6 of their last 7 with some just really bad performances in there. And yeah, the point that you made, they're like top 7 in the conference in scoring, but a lot of those points come against UConn, Villanova, and what was the other one you said in there?
USC.
Yeah, USC, 28. So they suck. I hope we cover. Like, I feel like Thanksgiving Day games, which as often or as frequently as they are, senior days or whatever, Penn State rolls. There was the one. It was the Thanksgiving I spent at my friend's house in Birmingham, Alabama. I don't remember the year, but we played Nebraska, I think, and it was like 40-0, and then somehow Nebraska came back.
Oh, that was 17. So that was like Barkley's last game.
Okay, like that was a post Thanksgiving, I think, senior day.
It was pouring rain. Yeah.
Holy cow! Like, let's do that again, right? But except not give up 30 points. So I think, I don't know. Like, there's no baby Tua who's going to save them. They have no talent anymore. I hope this is a showcase for like some good Maryland transfers for next year, though, like a la Chop Robinson. That'd be cool.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, Penn State could be beneficiary of a couple somewhat local coaching changes. I don't know if Loxley survives if they go 4-8. Doesn't sound like Neil Brown's going to make it at West Virginia, and Mac Brown's out at North Carolina. So, there's a lot of guys that Penn State recruits the same guys as in that DMV area as those three schools. So, maybe could be nice transfer haul. We'll see. We'll get to that point, but yeah, Maryland, I just don't see it. The two times they've gotten Penn State was the 2014 team, which is like one of the worst Penn State teams I've ever seen, and the pandemic team, which is also one of the worst Penn State teams I've ever seen. When Penn State is locked in and going, Maryland doesn't touch them. So,
and they're locked in and going this year. I mean, this is reminiscent of kind of 2016 Michigan State, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's the last game of the year. Penn State has something to play for. The opponent doesn't.
Definitely.
And then kind of put it on them. Yeah, just going back, I looked up you're right. You were right. 2017 Nebraska Penn State. It was 42-10 at half.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
What was the final? 56-41? Yeah.
56-44. Yeah, they'll do that. But do the first one. Yeah, so this is, man, I don't know. I don't care what the line is. They're going to cover. This is one that I'm pretty confident they'll cover. Mm-hmm. Maryland sucks after Columbus Day every year. We are really far after Columbus Day this year. They have nothing to play for, and we beat them. And somehow, still though, some of the Maryland Twitter accounts are talking about Penn State hate week and all this stuff. Like, come on, man.
I saw that. They're never going to stop. It's just funny, but yeah, they were pulling up the field goal they made in 2014, and all the comments were like, "Is that Beth Mowins I hear?" or whatever. Like, seriously, I'm very glad Penn State has. In part, this is the new TV deal, but the days of playing at Northwestern at noon on a gray day on ESPN2 with Beth Mowins are over. I'm just very glad those days are over.
Yeah, now it's like it's at least CBS, I guess, right at 2:30 against the shitty team. But
schedule. This schedule turned out to not be as fun as I think we thought it could have been. Outside the Ohio State game, like West Virginia, totally underperformed what they did last year and thought they were capable of. Wisconsin fell apart. The backup, our Bo Prabila, crushed them. Washington was in the national championship game last year, and they turned into nothing. USC, I mean, obviously that USC game was close, but you saw USC beat LSU week 1, and you thought, oh, okay, there's a team there. That didn't happen. I just kind of looking back at it, a lot of these teams that we thought could be, a challenge and interesting, it didn't really turn out to be the case.
And Bowling Green is really good. So there you go. They're 7-4.
Yeah, at least Illinois is going to get to 9 wins. It looks like, which is good. Yeah. So,
and West Virginia, I think. I thought they were still 7. Well, I guess not. I thought mathematically somehow still alive for the Big 12 championship game. But
I think they need to win, and literally everyone else needs to lose. So I don't know how that's going to work, but
yeah, but that's also part of the argument that you can only beat who you play, right? It's not like you can't look too far past that and Washington was amazing last year, and that game should have been the whiteout, and it probably would have been a lot closer. And if they had Michael Penix again, it would have looked like that would have been a really quality win had we beaten them, right? And West Virginia, they had a lot of hype going into the year, like you said. Certainly USC, they were top 15 going into the year, so you can't control what happens to the other teams. You just have to win. It'd be super cool to score a touchdown against Ohio State when you have first and goal at the 4 twice, but you can't get everything you want. So here we are, and we, still going to be 11-1. Franklin's first 11-1 season, and going to get a good playoff game out of it.
Yeah. So first time he's gone undefeated on the road in a season at Penn State.
First time since 1994. So
yeah. and first 11-win season since 08 for the program. First for Franklin. If they get this done, which they don't, we shouldn't be talking about the playoff anyway. But
right, that's not counting postseason, obviously.
Right. Yeah, not counting regular season.
Yeah.
So I mean, look, they made some steps forward. I know the schedule turned out to not be as hard as we thought, but
again, you can't control that, right?
Yeah.
You have to win the games, and like they were down a few times, Minnesota, Bowling Green, and USC, and they managed to win all those games. And in years past, I think you're staring at like 8-4 right now, and you hate everything about what we're doing right now. So, I have 2 more brief topics, if you know.
Sure.
Okay, number 1. So, do you want Michigan or Ohio State to win this weekend?
So we've talked about this. There's a part of me that just wants to go to the home playoff game, just to experience it, just like go tailgate again and everything. Look, I don't think this Penn State team's going to win the Natty. I think their ceiling would be the Final Four, and I'd be happy with that. Now, obviously, you win. Like, I don't think they'd beat Oregon in the Big Ten championship game. Is the thing, and then if you go to the Big Ten championship game and lose, are you still going to get the home game? Now, I think Ohio State, if they lose to Michigan, might be pushed out of the home game. Do you think that would be the case?
Oh, that's a good question.
So
yeah, probably, right? Because,
here's the thing. If there was no risk of Penn State losing a home playoff game if they lost to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, I'd be all for go and play that game.
Yeah.
But the other problem is you lose that, and then you played that extra game, and you have one less week of preparation for the playoff, and then you played a game that you've lost. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, so great.
Yeah, there's just part of me that I'd rather just go 11-1, let Ohio State and Oregon play that extra game, let them have to play a battle to, vie for that bye, and let Penn State kind of sit there and rest and prepare for a home game. I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, you want to win the conference. It's just like winning the conference doesn't mean as much anymore, unfortunately. And I know that kind of sucks, but I think you just kind of prepare to go 11-1, host a playoff game, and try to win that game. I think that's a bigger goal than winning the Big Ten at this point, just because it means more for winning the national championship.
I agree. And let's say, so you finish this game, you get 3 weeks until the playoffs start. So December 20th. I really hope it's not the one night game on the 20th. We're on the 21st. And then, then you're into a potentially 3-game season, therefore. Or, you play this extra game when you're already beat up. I think the risk of getting more beat up is actually pretty high when you're already super fatigued and stuff.
And you're playing a very physical team.
Oregon. Yeah, and then you have probably 2 weeks off if you lose because you don't get the bye.
Yeah.
So that, I think that's kind of worst case scenario, honestly, in a way. It is going to the Big Ten championship game and losing. Now, if you go and win, then you get 3 weeks off, and that's cool. But if you're going to go and you're going to lose, man, it's bad. Because you didn't get the rest to begin with, and you got one fewer week off to prepare for whomever you're going to play. And like you said too, you might get pushed out of the top 8, and then you're at an away game. So lots of terrible things there.
Yeah, I just feel like there's more that could go bad than good. I think the chance of beating Oregon is so slim versus the chance of obviously having one less week to prepare, which is a given, and then the odds of someone getting hurt and the odds of getting bumped out of a home game. Those 3 things are just so much greater than beating Oregon. So I think I just want to stay out of it.
Yeah. Now, if I was Ohio State and you won against Michigan, and then the loser of the Ohio State-Oregon game, or the team in the Ohio State position, is going to be the 5th seed probably. Right?
Yeah.
The 5th seed is that's the cream spot if you are not getting that bye.
Mm-hmm.
There's 0 chance Penn State becomes the 5th seed, I think. So.
Yeah, because you play pretty much the easiest team. So even though you have one less week, you
play the easiest team the first week, and then you play either the Big 12 champion or Boise State in the second week, right? And then you play the number 1 team in the Final Four.
The fact that West Virginia team still has a chance to win the Big 12 tells you all you need to know about that conference.
Yeah.
Total joke.
So that was number one. And then number two, I just wanted to touch on Saquon Barkley. Is he going to win the MVP?
I think there's a pretty good chance. None of the quarterbacks. Josh Allen's having a pretty good year. And obviously, like, Derrick Henry is also having a big year at the running back position. So, but I think, like, he definitely has an argument. Like, comeback player of the year, I think, is a given.
Yep.
Offensive player of the year, Jamar Chase has an argument for offensive player of the year. But I think, Joe Burrow's having a big year, but they're not going to miss the playoffs. So he's not going to win MVP. So I think he's in the top three right now. Like, I'd put Josh Allen up there. Lamar Jackson's up there. I'm trying to think. Like, Derrick Henry, I think, is also up there. So, like, I think if he keeps this up, if he breaks the rushing record, I think it's a given, which he's, like, on pace to beat it by 46 yards, I'm pretty sure. Now, obviously, part of that is they play an extra game now. But, like, right now, I put him in the top three.
Yeah.
I put him in the top three.
Well, look at you.
I just think, there's some other things that need to happen, but
DraftKings has him third, so they have him at plus 500, Lamar Jackson at plus 275, and Josh Allen at plus 150. It looks like before this week he was like plus 6,000. So, no, he was plus 4,000 before the game 2 nights ago.
Damn, should have bet on that.
Yeah, no kidding. And Derrick Henry is plus 6,000. So I'm sure Barkley was not that far away from plus 6,000 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So just missed it. But now it's over. So it's like, still buy Bitcoin, not financial advice. Do buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, I was not really expecting him to do that the other night, but
it was the fourth quarter, right? He had like 150 yards in the fourth quarter. Or something. Yeah, so.
I think it shows. I think Penn State's very happy that the Giants drafted him as high as they did because it was something they got to promote and everything. Obviously, number 2 overall for a running back is very good. Yeah. But if he wasn't on the Giants for 5 years or whatever, 5-6 years, whatever it was, I think like there's a chance he's already a secured Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Just how bad like 3 of those years went. Like,
yeah.
Obviously the Eagles like have a really good offensive line. So, but I'm not even saying like them. Like if he was just on an average team, I think he'd already be like in that conversation. Like, who's a team that's been like average the last like 4 years? Like the Vikings, like teams like that. If he was just on teams like that, I think he'd be like in a really good spot. But I think if he plays out this Eagles contract, which is 2 years after this, like this, and then maybe go somewhere else where they re-sign him and he puts up a couple years like close to 1,000 yards. Like I think he's, firmly in the Hall of Fame discussion.
I hope so because like he is. I mean, he is a generational talent. I mean, he had really bad luck. Would he have been Derrick Henry? Would he have had the longevity behind the Eagles' offensive line, or if you put him on the Titans or something? I don't know because Derrick Henry is just built so much differently than the rest of these guys. But to see what he's doing now, like in whatever year this is, 7 or whatever, 6, 7, he's absolutely killing it, right? And like doing amazing things. And it would have been great to see him do that for the last 6 years since 2018.
You know what the craziest thing about his numbers are? So he's been in the league since 2018. He's only lost 4 fumbles.
I guess that's very few, but is it what's Derrick Henry?
All right, let me look. He's lost 8. He's fumbled 17 times and lost 8, and he's been in the league 2 years longer.
Wow, okay. So that's pretty awesome, then.
Yeah, I mean, like, Saquon's only fumbled 5 times.
Yeah.
Henry's fumbled 17.
Barkley in 2015 had a lot of fumbles, right? Like, I don't know. There's several.
Ever since that year, it's cleaned up. I think he only lost 1 at Penn State after that.
Yeah, and that carried over. That's pretty amazing.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the impressive thing to me, just how well he takes care of the ball. But
I don't really care. I don't watch too much NFL, but I've always rooted for him, and I'll root for the Penn State guys. And now, like, the Eagles are really fun to watch. They're a good team, and I hope they win the Super Bowl.
There's a lot of good offenses in the NFL now. It's getting the college game is definitely starting to go over to the NFL. There's a lot more slinging around everywhere and stuff. But
anyway, that's good. Hey man.
All right, so hopefully we're back. I don't think we have to come right back if Penn State beats Maryland, because we won't need to do a meltdown, and we can kind of wait and see until championship weekend where they end up playing. I think that's a better route.
We should come back out, yes, once we know where they're playing.
Yeah, so we'll do that. So hopefully Penn State wins with 24.5-point favorites at home against Maryland. They should win. So we'll be back then, I guess.
Have a great Thanksgiving.
Hopefully.
Talk to you soon.